Hello, this is a Bluthner style 6 grand piano, 170 centimetres long, 5 foot 7 inches, and full restoration just been completed, just looking to see what sort of finishing touches might need, and also to have a look at the restoration. It was fully restored, and it's taken a long time. Unfortunately, with the lockdown and various other problems, we've had longer than we expected before this piano's been finished, so so apologies to the client for that, and hopefully we're going to get better. We've had one case where there's still some hammers in customs apparently in Germany. 6 months they've been there on another piano, so that's really quite serious, and we're really sorry to let people down like that. Just looking at the casework here, obviously with polyester, no, sorry, this is not polyester, this is French polish, or shellac as it's called, and you can't tell that I don't suppose you'll tell any difference on the camera at all, but you can see that it is, when you see it live, it is slightly different from polyester. I'm not going to attempt to show the difference here because you'd really have to see it, but you may actually pick out the fact that it's got slight, hand polish applied lines, whereas polyester is obviously just a two-pack plastic finish. Whether it's worth doing is something you would decide. Obviously, it's more authentic to do shellac finish, which is very similar to original French polish, because you can't do exactly as they would have done in those days. But I think it does look possibly slightly more authentic, and the clients wanted this to be as authentic as possible, I think. I don't know if you can pick out any of the lines on here, just a reflection you get really. Here I can see them live, and you can see slight lines in that direction. Obviously with polyester you don't see any lines at all. With the finishing off lines you can see it's, in a sense then, it's not as perfect as polyester, but it does seem to have a depth to it that you can't describe. It's really difficult to explain. As I say, the video is not helping very much here, but just wanted to let you know that that's what's been done to this piano. It is more expensive, it takes a lot longer than the finish which is usually applied, so whether you'd want that done or not is something to decide. I like it very much actually. Not really sure about whether I would recommend that or polyester finish. Certainly the value of the piano is not going to be any different, I don't think, from if you're thinking of the value of it. And in this case I think thinking just of getting it authentic. You can see the lines there where the light is it shows the lines quite clearly going in that direction, so it's very not that noticeable live though as a difference. This is the lid of a Grotrin Steinweg grand piano. We get to work on this for a client. We're going to try and perfect take the scratches out. But I don't really think it's that much different. Just try and look at the reflection of the light in it, and even this appears to sort of almost have some lines in it. So let's just trying to help you think about that. And as I say, I'm sorry, the reflections. Obviously, polyester shows so many reflections. Now the inside of the piano has been fully restored in the way we would normally fully restore, and we several done similarly, as you can see on other videos. This is Alicot, that makes it what we call style 6 instead of style 5. There's quite a lot of style 5s and not many style 6s, so it's quite unusual in the UK from our experience anyway. And it's got a new rest plank, new tuning pins obviously, and just done as well as we possibly can. So you can see there was some moth in the original felt, so I'll link to the previous video, but you can see this is done not shiny finish but more of a matte finish. You can do it shiny if you prefer. This is a bit more like it was originally though, so we'll try and keep it as original as possible. Very consistent string line here, as we mentioned many times before, a sign of a good string maker. Soundboard restored, keeps the original tone. You can see where the shims here are lighter coloured, so the soundboard's been shimmed. That's very normal, what normally done in the trade, and replacing the soundboard changes the tone of the piano quite considerably, so it's not something we really like to do. The tone of the piano, so I'll link to the original video so you can hear the difference. It's a huge, much clearer. I think up here there were some notes that, because it was the hammers were so flat, it was just very unclear, the tone, and very soft really. We still have to fine tune this. It's got new strings and they tend to move a bit at first, so I'll visit the client in the house as well, just to do a free tuning and also check the piano that it's good for the environment. So just to clear us out, mainly the hammers that have made the difference, not the strings, but we had to restring, I think, as well, because as I mentioned in the video that if you do the outside without the inside, it's very incongruous. But obviously you've got very tight tuning pins now, so there are other reasons for restringing. So it's not something we'd always do because it's the new hammers that make the most difference. In this case, with the cosmetics being done, doing the inside's a practical thing. I don't know how much we've improved the bass. We'll probably put a link to the previous one. It's certainly as good as, and possibly better. They weren't original strings on the other one. The string length is better here, and I think slightly higher quality, and that's coned nicely as well. Original Bluthner strings are coned and are very differently, as we've shown before on other videos. These key tops were not ivory and they're simulated. The grain is identical on all of them, which is a clear sign that they're not ivory. Very good look-alike actually, and slightly off-white, which I was a bit concerned whether that would look right with the polyester, but I think it does actually. So sorry, I keep saying polyester. I mean shellac. We don't often do this finish, so we do quite a lot of black pianos polyester, which is much more commonly asked for. But they've been buffed, so they're shinier, so they don't attract the dirt. I look at the action, all the felts have been replaced, these centre rail felts as well, and the keys have been lubricated centre, as we've always do that. And you can see this new felts, and you can see there's new hammers. These are Arbel hammers, which is the most commonly put on the Bluthners. We've ask Arbel to make them for Bluthners, and they know what to do. So the tone is especially getting the right tone. This is the best quality we can find as well. So and then regulation, so that the action works as well as possible. This is a patent action with an L-shaped spring here, which we've talked about before on other videos if you want to understand that a bit more, because it's different from normal grand pianos. Bluthner have their special style of action. So the hammers are now, if you look at the hammers in the as they were before, they were very flat. We often find Bluthners where they've been used extensively and the hammers are really flat. And too much hammers hitting the string, whereas now the hammer it's much cleaner. It's bringing out the harmonics better. There's not much hammer hitting the string compared with when it was probably about a centimetre actually. If you look at the other video, you'll see that now that's rounded and it's producing a much cleaner sound. Here's the original assessment sheet we made, and you can see the date 6/7/21. So it was so sorry about that for the clients, obviously having to wait very patiently to get the piano. But there's been a lot of problems with COVID, and also Brexit has caused us a lot of problems because some of the work's done in Central Europe. So there's the details. I think the pitch was already on pitch roughly when we took the piano on, so it was played regularly, and as it says here, used for teaching since 1950. I believe before that was used by previous generations, so it's been well used and it's been worked on in the 70s. Well, we fully restored this piano, and I think that shows everything. I didn't measure the hammer blow now, but it'll be very similar in the key dip. So we've just got to refine it, and before it goes to the client. So in the end, it was fully restored in every detail. I mentioned earlier that the rest plank was replaced. That's the block that tuning pins go into, and you can tell replace rest planks on Bluthners. They're painted black here and originally, and you can see two laminates here sticking out, and that's a clear indication it's a new rest plank. And also this is a delignate rest plank, and they tend to be slightly different colours underneath where they've shaved through the laminates, I think. So I don't know if you can see that, whether it's worth. Sorry, the video is not that brilliant because I'm trying to get it from underneath, but you can see the different colouring. That's a sign of a delignate rest plank. One of the two main ones, and the main one that's put in a lot of new pianos these days. So that's a style 6 Bluthner grand piano, 170 centimetres long, 5 foot 7 inches, and it's been fully restored. Now, particularly that changing of the hammers is the number one thing that restores the original tone, because there was too much hammer hitting the string, and that means it's not a clean sound. It doesn't bring the harmonics out properly, and it was very soft around here. Bluthners tend to be a bit soft in the top treble anyway, but it was just so soft and uncontrollable in terms of tone, really. Now, I've got to fine tune it still. It's been restrung and takes a while to settle down. So I'll visit the client in the house as well, as the plan, and, or send another technician possibly, but I try and go myself, and just to check the piano is right for the environment. There's still just a few minor refinements to make, because I'm trying it out now. We also give the client an assessment sheet, which they can, a check sheet when they get the piano, so you can also yourself have a look and see if there's any minor issues that there might be. After full restoration you sometimes get that, but hopefully there won't be any. We'll check it before it goes out here, and then, as I say, check it again in the client's home. Bluthner tone is just unsurpassed, really. We've mentioned this many times before. The action is patent action, so if you aren't used to that, then it's a slightly different touch, but it's one that we really appreciate. It's a bit out of tune at the moment, as I say, because it's got new strings. We will fine tune it before it gets delivered. It's very fluid to play, beautiful action Bluthners have if they're well regulated. The main problem we find with Bluthners when we get them to assess is that they just haven't been restored at all, so the hammers are very, very flat. The action is regulated so that the hammer's coming off much too early. They're two of the most common things. We can obviously go down the road of doing the minimum work in terms of expense, or in this case just do a full restoration. It's certainly worth doing. And we really appreciate, as I say, the final result. Thank you so much for listening. If you've got a Bluthner grand piano, you're interested in restoring it, so are we. So please let us know. Please write to info@robertspianos.com. Let us know what you'd like to do, and we'll be very happy to help.